Hello everybody, AJ Ryzik here, and we've got another Linux OS review today. Today we are looking at Manjaro with Budgie Desktop. Now this is a community developed edition and it is not the final release. This is still a release candidate, so there are some bugs here. So you may not want to make this your primary distribution. But you know, having played with it for about a week or so, I really like the direction this thing is going. Certainly worth a look at. Now, funny thing is there is no mention of this on the Manjaro homepage, and I guess that's because it's not officially released yet. But you know, I found out about it reading an article on Softpedia, and you can download it from there. You can also download it from SourceForge, which I'll leave a link for the SourceForge page down below. So if you want to go and download this and give it a look, you can do that. So what is the Budgie Desktop? If you are not familiar with it, it is the desktop that has been developed, or I should say is being developed because it's still under heavy development, for the Solus project. And actually, while we're talking about the Solus project, I will be reviewing Solus OS within the next couple of days. I'm hoping to do it tomorrow. Might be the day after or so, depending on how my time runs. But anyway, it is their desktop. It uses the Gnome stack. I've got the Solus project's webpage open here, and just reading from that, Budgie is the flagship desktop of the Solus operating systems, part of the Solus project. Designed with modern user in mind, it focuses on simplicity and elegance, a huge advance for the Budgie desktop. It is not a fork of another project, but rather one written from scratch with integration in mind. The Budgie desktop tightly integrates with the Gnome stack, employing underlying technologies to offer an alternative desktop experience in the spirit of open source. Long story short, basically they've used the existing GNOME libraries, the GNOME stack, to create a, I guess you could think of it as a simplified desktop experience. You have, you know, we've got this panel across the bottom here. We have a menu right here. We've got our tray. And then over here on the left hand side, we've got our indicator icons, little time / calendar, and then power button, and a quick link to our settings, and then also our volume. So fairly simple, but it's a basic layout that is, you know, it's traditional desktop design. You know, whether you're coming from Windows or another Linux distribution, you know, it's going to be simple. You're going to be able to figure out how to operate, you know, on the desktop. Budgie's got some fairly basic tweaks and changes that you can make. If you go and right-click your panel, you can pull up your Budgie settings. You can also go and pull it up from your main menu. But once in the Budgie settings, you can activate a full dark theme, which is what we've got there, or stick with the standard theme. The theme, by the way, was specifically designed for Budgie. You can go and use that theme on GNOME desktop. You can also use it on Cinnamon. It's GTK 316, so you do need to be, you know, compliant with GTK 316. But you know, I'm running it on my both my laptop and my main desktop distro, which are both GNOME 316. Anyway, so you've got this standard EvoPop GTK theme, and then they've also got a light version. And here's the catch-22 that I found, at least for me, was that I think that the standard EvoPop theme is better looking, but I think there's better visibility with the light theme, and I'll show you why. Let me go back to the dark theme, or the darker theme, and pull over LibreOffice Writer, and you can see that you really can't see the icons. And I ran into this with a couple of other apps. When you open them up, because of the combination of dark and light, you end up not being able to read stuff. So at least for me, maybe some of you that have eyesight that's 20 some odd years younger than mine, you might have an easier time with the dark. But I always have trouble with the light theme or the with the dark themes. So anyway, there you got your theming. Their icon set, they've created their own icon set, yeah, icon set, which I like. I'm also using that on my regular distro as well. As far as applets, I've just stuck with what they've installed by default, and I kind of ran through the layout earlier, but you can go and move stuff around. You can add some applets, take applets away, however you want to tweak that. You've even got, you can go and add some padding, so if you want to space things out a little bit different, how you want things placed, all that kind of stuff. You've got menu options here. You can either have a menu label or not have it. Right now it's set up for the compact menu, which, let me click it, and it's basically just a long list of everything, categorized, of course. You can do the standard menu, which I think at least to me, this is more like the menu that you find on the Mate desktop. Click a category and boom, over on the right hand side it'll pop up everything that's in that particular category. I'm kind of torn as to which of the menus that I like, and for me personally, either one, it really doesn't matter for me, just because whichever one I use, I'm going to use my keyboard to search for what I want rather than scrolling through and looking for the application. So to me, it's kind of irrelevant. But set it up the way that you want. Then you got some settings for icon size, menu label, menu icons, that sort of thing. And then down here at the panel, we've got Gnome panel theme integration, enable panel shadows. Where do you want the panel? Personally, if I was going to make this my main distro, I would move it to the top. That's just what I'm used to and what I like. But you can put it wherever you want. You can adjust the size, and you can do an automatic hide, or just keep it so it's always up, whichever way you want. Now you can also go and tweak things around using the Gnome tweak tool. And obviously not everything that's available on the Gnome desktop is available here. So like you don't have the option for all the Gnome extensions. They're not compatible. But from here you can go and do once again, tweak your appearance. Do you want icons on the desktop? Adjust your fonts, all those sort of things. As I mentioned earlier, Budgie uses the Gnome stack, and as a result, we have quite a few what I would call Gnome utilities. We have the Gnome File Manager, we've got the Gnome System Monitor, we've got Gnome Terminal. Having said that, this is what you would call either a core or minimal distribution. We don't have a whole lot of apps added. We've got the stuff that came with the desktop environment. We've got the stuff that comes with Manjaro, the Manjaro settings and that sort of thing. What we don't have is we don't have an office suite. We don't have a music player. We don't have a video player, that sort of thing. Luckily, we do have the most excellent package manager for managing your packages, adding software, performing your updates, all that kind of stuff. So adding the software that you need is no big deal. You can add stuff right from the regular Manjaro repositories, or you can also enable access of the Arch user repositories and dig into all the software that's there. So basically, any piece of software that you could want that's in the Linux world, you're going to find here. So and you know, that kind of setup I kind of like. I like that you know, you don't have all this software that you may or may not use. You know, you've got the basic stuff that's needed to run the desktop, and then you can go and add whatever it is that you're interested in adding. Because, you know, on a lot of distributions these days, there's just so much software, and you know, I'm sure there's other people like me that 90% of what is included in the distribution you're not going to use, especially on my laptop. You know, my laptop, you know, I need my writing software. I need a, you know, I need a browser and a music player and video player. That's essentially it on my laptop. My desktop's a different story because I'm doing, you know, the video editing and my research and all that kind of stuff. So that's a little bit different. But you know, in the case of my laptop, I don't need a whole lot. So I like the fact that you know, you can only you know, just install the stuff that you really want. By default, this distribution comes with kernel 4.1.6. However, if you open up your Manjaro settings manager, you can go to kernel, and there's a variety of different kernels that you can install. And of course, as updates come down the pike, you can go and update to newer kernels as they come down, and so on and so forth. As you can see right now, the experimental kernel 4.2 RC8-1 is available. But kind of looking back, you know, you've got some LTS kernels available, and actually, you know, this 318.20-1 kernel right here, LTS, I actually installed it. I was having trouble with Simple Screen Recorder. It was recording the desktop and was not recording the open windows. At first, I thought maybe there was an incompatibility issue with the kernel, but what it ended up being was incompatibility with the proprietary video driver for my Radeon card. After I switched to the open source driver, you know, no problems at all. Which is kind of funny. I've never had an issue with that. You know, that kind of problem with Simple Screen Recorder before. So I don't know if it's you know, the combination of kernel plus the proprietary driver, or you know, it was a recent update to the proprietary driver that was causing the issue, or you know, where the problem was. But you know, because I've used you know, proprietary driver on my main desktop for, you know, as long as I've had that video card, and I've never run into that issue with Simple Screen Recorder. But you know, switching to the open source fixed the problem, so I'm happy. But anyway, back to the kernels. You know, you see there's a variety available. If you wanted to install another one, you know, just simply click on install, let it do its thing, reboot your system, and you're good to go. And while we're on specs, RAM usage, baseline was 300 to 310 megs of RAM, barely showing anything on the CPU usage. I think I was down around 1%. So very light on the resources. I mean, we're about to where XFCE is. So this would be an excellent desktop to use if you've got you know, maybe a netbook or an older laptop that only has, you know, 2 gigs of RAM or whatever. Very light on the resources. Issues and problems. Well, unfortunately, this distribution did not play nice with my laptop. I initially installed it on my laptop, and let me drag my notes over here. My laptop is a ThinkPad T410, 8 gigs of RAM, Core i5 at 2.53 gigahertz. Got the standard mobile graphics, 80 gig SSD, all kinds of bugs. The desktop would freeze and crash. I would like open the menu would freeze open, apps wouldn't open, apps would not close, just problem after problem after problem. So then I installed on my desktop computer, which is where I normally do my reviews, and that is an Acer M3410, 16 gigs of RAM. It's got the AMD Athlon 645 processor, which is a quad core at 3.1 gigahertz. Also have the AMD Radeon HD 7700 graphics card. Much better experience. I ran into a few small bugs, but it was fairly smooth experience. And let me scroll down here in my notes here. Here's the issues that I ran into. I had the desktop crash twice, and it was when installing the updates. So I don't know if it was because of the updates that were installing, or whether it was the desktop itself. The menu did freeze on me once, but it was maybe like 10 seconds or so. I mentioned the simple screen recorder issue, that I've never had that before. And then the one other thing, and I had this both on the desktop and the laptop, after the installation, you'd go and boot up, and every time you boot, I get this error message: configured directory for incoming files does not exist. Please make sure that the directory home Manjaro downloads exist, or configure it with Bluemin services. So those are really the only issues, true issues that I had on the desktop. Now, there's a couple things about Budgie that I'd like to be able to tweak or change. I'd like to see the availability of more applets for the panel. To me, the animations are kind of slow and lethargic. If I click that, it's not too bad now, but I've had a few times where it seems to take forever for the menu to open. I like snappy animations, so I'd like to see maybe in the Budgie settings them add something where you can tweak the animation speed, because there's some people that are going to like the slow animations. I like them fast. Maybe even an option for shutting off the animations. Who knows? So there's that. You can't go and integrate like your Google Calendar into the calendar here. You've got, when you go to your settings, you've got basically the normal Gnome settings panel, and you can go and do the online account integration right here. But even after doing that, it does not integrate your Google Calendar, assuming that you've got an account set up. So I'd love to see that, because that's something that I really use. So for me, if I was using this as my main desktop, I would go and add maybe the California calendar app or the Gnome calendar app, something like that, so that I get some kind of calendar integration. Or if you're going to run Thunderbird for your for your email, go and add Lightning to that and do the integration in that regard. But other than that, I think it's a pretty neat desktop. Nice and light on the resources, like I said earlier, it's still in development. So I see more good things coming from that desktop, and then also from the the Solus project, which, like I said, I'll be reviewing that in the next day or so. And having said that, that about finishes this review up. As always, please leave comments, questions, all that kind of stuff down below. I'll try to get to it as soon as possible. Give us a big old thumbs up, thumbs down. Let us know what you thought of the review. And if you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. Love to add you to my subscriber rolls. And on that note, I will see you all on the next video. Thanks a lot.